I worked on a lash client who I really struggled with. She had quite a few things that I found really difficult to work with. So today I'm gonna share with you how I mapped her set out and show you exactly what I was working with, in hopes that if you ever have a challenging client like this, you will too know exactly how to deal with it. I guess I should probably introduce myself as well if we haven't met yet. My name's Caitlin Elford. I'm the owner and lead educator of Lost Artistry Lash. And on our YouTube channel, we talk about literally all things lash. So we dive into mapping, stylings, and all the good stuff. So if you haven't seen our YouTube or you haven't subscribed, definitely go ahead, ring that bell, click the subscribe, like, and comment. It means so much to us. The super unique thing about my client that I worked on today, she had two very unique eyes. So one eye, although the shape was the exact same from eye to eye, when you really dove in and assessed what was going on beneath that on her actual lashes, there was a big difference from eye to eye. So I really had to get creative when I was working with this client. In order to really show you what I'm talking about, just check out this photo with me. So let's take a look at her lashes. She has many layers, which is great, but within each layer, the lashes seriously crisscross like crazy. So isolation is going to be very challenging, which I definitely experienced. One of my biggest tips when dealing with clients who have really hard lashes to isolate is using a very fine-tipped tweezer with a nice curve. So today I worked with our Sunset Ultra tweezer, which is the best for isolating those really fine lashes. It's also really great for those clients who have curly lashes as well. Next thing I'm going to look at is, you see all these lashes that sit higher than like a full layer? Those lashes can really throw off a set. Not only do they curve in all different kinds of directions, which is going to be crazy to manage, but on top of that, with the fact that they sit so much higher than the other lashes, we have to be very careful, because if we wanted, say, a uniform lash set, then unfortunately we wouldn't get that if we lashed these, we'll call them rogue lashes. So I really want to make sure that I avoid those, meaning this lash, this lash, this lash. So this is her left eye. The look of her lashes from eye to eye are very different. So here's one of the biggest things that I noticed that would have thrown off my set. So we have her left eye, and you can see this area in particular, that the lashes point down. But in this area, they very much point up. So if her lashes point up here and here and here and here, but down here, then that's a sure sign that we know we need to mix curls. It's really important that we do that, because if not, then I use C curl here, everything's gonna look really nice and up and sit wonderfully, but over here, everything's gonna start drooping down into her eyes, which isn't gonna look very good. But not only would this area look pretty funky if we used less curl, like a C curl or a B curl, not only would they just droop down, but more attention would be drawn to the fact that they droop down, simply because the other eye, her right eye, does not have the same problem. So I could go ahead and do one mapping on her right eye that would look wonderful, and her left eye would look completely different. So what I did was, let's break the eye into two parts. So on this side, I used a C curl, and on this side, I used a D curl, especially on that bottom layer. And I even noticed that she had a few lashes that point down within the other section. For those lashes, I just put a few D curls in when I noticed them. But I broke the eye into two sections, C curl and D curl. And that's exactly what I did. But on the other eye, I worked with a C curl throughout the entire set, which actually balanced out really nicely, because what the D curl did was brought the lashes up just enough to meet that C curl, which worked really well. Now, there is a trick to that. So if we have our D curl section and our C curl section, then right here, let's say this is our section being broken in half, then I really need to focus on mixing C curl and D curl within this area here. That'll create a really nice blend. So let's say we go lash to lash, C, D, C, D, C, D. And that'll make it so the transition is seamless and you won't even notice that you've mixed from curl to curl. Now the next thing is, do you need to jump up in length to make them balanced because the lashes point down? The answer is you may have to. So luckily for her, a lot of the top layer didn't point down quite as far as the bottom layer. So I worked with the D curl on the bottom layer, the same curl D curl on the top layer, and it actually just met the C curl and looked fine. But that is something to think about. So let's say your client, the whole section tilted downward. You may want to consider bumping your length up as well, just to suit that. Lengthwise for her today, I'll walk you through that in a second with an actual photo of her face, but for her today, I worked with 8mm into 9, 10, 11, 12, quickly. And then from here to here, my section there, I worked with a mix of 14, 12, and 13, 14mm. I'm really drawing this thing up. But I worked with 14mm, 8 into 14, and I went back down to 10 on the very corners. Again, D curl, and 11 quickly, and then went all the way back up. So I used 12, 13, and then back into 14. But again, lots of feathering happening in here. So my client likes hybrid lashes. She very clearly stated that she likes length, but she doesn't particularly like drama. So we gave her lots of length with just a touch of drama, just a noticeable enough lash set. So the hybrid lashes were really great for that. I also worked with our Lost Artistry Lash volume lashes. I did all handmade for this set in anywhere from 3 to 60. Quite honestly, most of her lashes were very fine and, like I said, overlapping. So I did do a lot of 3D. Only on the really strong lashes did I do up to 60, but mainly 3/4D. For the set in 0.05 diameter lashes. I worked with our mix tray 8 to 15. I love that tray because it has a really nice variety of lengths, and then you can always have multiple curls and stuff on hand. And then outside of that, I also worked with our classic lashes, and in our classic lashes, I worked with a 0.12 diameter classic lash. The reason why I didn't work with flat lashes for her is simply because her lashes needed so much direction. Classic lashes are much better for direction, whereas our flat lashes are exactly that. Cross section, flat, and they don't offer as much direction because they do have to be placed on the bottom or the top of the natural lash. I'm just gonna show you her other eye, and then we're gonna assess her actual eye shape. So the trouble doesn't just stop there. Love you, you're awesome, but your lashes are really, really challenging. So not only did my client have pretty crazy natural lashes, but she also has deep set eyes. So I will show you what I'm talking about. So not only were her lashes a little bit funky on that one eye, but I just want to quickly show you what the other eye looked like. So you can see that all the lashes on the outer corner are lifted upward, just for a visual. Now let's really assess her eyes. So not only does she have obviously different eyelashes from eye to eye, but she also has deep set eyes. Deep set eyes just means that the brow protrudes out quite a bit more than the eyes. So the eyes are sunken a little bit further back. So that's what she has. So deep set eyes are a little bit more challenging to work on in general because it's hard to get over that brow bone and really in close to that lash line to isolate, especially on the inner corners because we're going over a brow bone. So that's where those curved isolation tweezers come in handy. Reason why I suggested our Sunset Ultra is because of that really fine tip, so it helps for both. But a curved isolation with a fine tip would be fine too. My other favorite is our Gold Member Isolation Tweezer, also wonderful, especially for deep set eyes, but really unruly eyes, definitely Sunset. Anyways, looking back at her eye shape. So let's now look at the shape of her eyes. So we already know that they're deep set, which is challenging. But now when we look at her eyes, I almost always look at the skin above the lid. This is something that I don't think is talked about quite enough in the lash industry. But if you really focus on the skin, think about how we can make a client's eye shape look more almond. So we can enhance the shape of the eye by pulling areas out, putting lengths in certain directions, but we can't change the skin above the eye, of course. So for this particular client, not only is length going to help with the deep set eyes, because the length is going to bring the eyes, it's going to give the illusion that the eyes sit further out, but on top of that, if we use higher lengths, like that 14 millimeter that I used on her, then we're actually covering that skin above the eye and making that look more rounded or elongated or whatever. So we're hiding that if it's not a really nice, perfect shape. So that's also fun. And that's basically how I planned out my client today. Okay, so that is how I planned out my lash set today. Pretty intense, lots going on, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I would love to hear what you think of the set too. Let's check it out. You set my heart on fire.